Hey, and now, James, one of our favorite segments of this show, the questions from our really smart listeners from all over the globe. They are really good. It's hard to choose which ones to do, but we love this segment. And James, I want to start with Nigel from Plymouth in the UK. So Nigel says, I used to think that America's situation was analogous to that of the fall of the Roman Empire. Now, increasingly, I think you are more like the Weimar Republic, being battered by big lies before authoritarianism takes over. Which historical period do you think best describes the situation in the body politic that America finds itself in?
Probably 1859. The only that we're not shooting each other, and of course there is a brilliant Tom Etzel piece in the New York Times online edition about political sectarianism, and Tom says the political scientist makes a point that there are three core ingredients: othering, the tendency to view opposing parties as essentially different or alien; aversion, to dislike and distrust partisans; and moralization. Right? But what Tom? But this is not. But because these are problems, the tendency of both siderism. Yeah, they are moralistic Democrats that think that, and it's a problem for the Democratic Party. But it's not nearly a problem among Democrats that it is among the Trump people. Not nearly. And we got to be careful to point that out. But the country is, you got 70% of one political party that doesn't accept an election. I don't know. It just, you look, the Ted Cruz is a perfect example of the modern United States. The Ted Cruz is good. He went to Princeton and Harvard Law School, and he's a learned man.
Well, I mean, a lot of these guys did. Tom Cotton, Josh Hawley, and they're just they're responding to the Trumpification of this party. The second question, we had Tom in New York said that he was listening to a show I did, the Clayton Show, in which I said that Joe Biden was nostalgic for a Senate that doesn't exist anymore. And the question that Tom asked is, if that's the case, how does he adjust to this reality and thread the needle to get things done? Well, first answer I'd give is depends on Georgia. If there's 50 votes in the Senate, he's going to have to thread a lot of needles. Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, who are moderately conservative Democrats, will be in the driver's seat, a lot better than Mitch McConnell. And I do think, though, that the president-elect thinks of the Senate as a place to get things done, which it was for most of his time there. It's different today. There may be a few things that'll be in Mitch's interest, but let's understand Mitch will always put power and party and staying in his position ahead of any national interest. And that's different than Howard Baker and Bob Dole, as partisan as they could be.
Yeah, by the way, on the point about the difference between the difference Georgia makes, I highly recommend a short piece by John Chait, who is, I follow him religiously, in New York Magazine, that lays out how much difference what the real difference is. And you're exactly right. It's what you can bring to the floor, and you can't. If you just pick up one of those seats, you can't get anything to the floor.
Right.
All right. You can't. You couldn't bring. If you have those seats, at least you can bring the Supreme Court nomination to the floor.
Right.
And people have to. You're exactly right. And Chait amplifies your point, and it's worth our listeners reading that and understanding why Al Hunt is so believes that Georgia is much more than having a 50-50 Senate. The consequences and the ramifications of this are unbelievable. And to Joe Biden, they're unbelievable. So,
James, that point is so right. Just two reminders. Number one, Merrick Garland, if he gotten to the floor, if there'd been a vote, up and down vote, however you want to do it, would have carried with, maybe 60 votes. No question he would have. McConnell wouldn't let it come to the floor. Correct. And this year, if you'd put a relief stimulus package on the floor anytime June, July, after the House passed it, after the House did their duty and acted, and you put it before the Senate, it would have passed with an easy majority, and McConnell wouldn't let it. That's what's at stake in 2021.
It is, and it's worth repeating. You can't. There's all kinds of legislation that would pass if you let people vote on it.
Yeah.
But if you don't let people vote on it, it's not going anywhere. And the majority party controls what gets there. So it's worth repeating.
We got a good question from Charles. I have a criticism of Charles. He doesn't tell us where he's from. I want to ask everyone to please tell us where they're from if they don't mind. But Charles asked a good question. He says, Republican Party seems to be devolving into something akin to fascism. When Trump leaves office and his influence over them wanes, I think that's a question mark. Will they be able to reconstitute themselves as a party that can attract, more people?
First of all, I think it's a stretch to call the Republicans a party. Mm-hmm. I think that by and large, their personality code. Now, in the single thing that Republican voters want Republican office holders to do is to protect Donald Trump. That is the single most important thing to them.
Hey, thanks for listening to Politics War Room with James Carville and I'm Al Hunt. Remember to email your questions to politicswarroom@gmail.com or tweet them for next week's show at Politicon. Thank you for subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. Please rate the show with a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another show as we continue our War Room planning for 2021.